We're now more than 2/3 through Season 2 of X-Men 97, and Storm is finally back on screen. And this crop of episodes is very hit or miss. Feels like a lot is happening, but not a lot is happening at the same time. Let me explain. Episode 4 is Rise of Apocalypse Part 2, which picks up right after Ramatut blasted the X-Men and Ensaba Noor's team. Magneto was able to save the X-Men, but Noor was on his own. His mentor Ball did not survive the blast, and he is done with all of this, blaming Magneto's treachery for everything. Xavier talks him down, and now he's the one that has Noor's ear, convincing him to work with the X-Men to find Ramatut's temple. Speaking of Ramatut, we have a meeting of the minds between Xavier and the big man himself, who reveals himself to be none other than Kang the Conqueror. This is where the episode gets really wibbly-wobbly and timey-wimey, because you actually hear different versions of Kang speaking to Kang from across time. He's actually having a council meeting with different versions of himself, while he also makes Professor X trip balls psychically. He legit torments this man of visions of the X-Men losing against Apocalypse in the future. And while Xavier still tries to keep up the lie with Ensaba Noor that he's actually on his side, he's reminded once again just how much of a menace this man is. Not that it does them any good, because once they actually find Ramatut's temple, Ensaba Noor puts the pieces together almost instantly. Because of course this place is laced with hieroglyphics depicting the present and the future. So he has his whole life story spoiled to him by the Celestials, and he's just done with all the X-Men at this point. Just in time for Isan the Gardener to come down to him, giving him the offer of a lifetime.
You will be the end of things, Ensaba Noor. Armies will dream of your demise. If you can endure it, then say the words.
I am the rocks of the eternal shore. Crash against me and be broken!
This episode highlights one of X-Men 97's strongest points, how it expands the Marvel Universe beyond the X-Men's corner. We already had Morph turning into members of the Avengers, but now we getting straight up cosmic with it. And when we actually see Ensaba Noor transform into Apocalypse, it is a visual marvel, no pun intended. Granted, it's all happening way too fast, which is par for the course for this show. But how much time have we spent with Ensaba Noor? The very end of Season 1, and then an episode and a half now. So all that work humanizing him really is wasted in my opinion, because we have no time to appreciate his struggle before he becomes a monster. But look on the bright side. All that talk of Noor's painful childhood gave Xavier ammunition to use psychically when they tried desperately to defeat Apocalypse. And I really do mean desperately. They really weren't phasing this man when he was Ensaba Noor. There was no way they were gonna phase him as Apocalypse. Shout out to X-Men vs Street Fighter, by the way. And this of course leads to the most painful scene of the entire season, Magneto's sacrifice. He forces the newly repaired time bands onto the X-Men's wrists, allowing Bishop to zap him back to the future, while he stays behind. Chuck grabs onto him, staying behind as well, where they continue their feeble fight against Apocalypse, before he just decides, fuck all this, I'ma just blow everything up. He commands the ship to destroy Ramatut City and all its inhabitants, and Magneto does get one solid attack off, wrapping him up like a metal mummy and sending him flying off several miles into the distance. And now it's time for him to atone for all his sins, using his mastery of magnetism to encase the black hole blast before it can destroy the city. He was definitely planning on dying right now, but he does survive, just long enough to get one shot by Apocalypse himself.
Charles, I'm sorry.
Now, Magneto's death would have hit harder for me if we didn't already have a fake out death from last season, but it was still hard hitting. His arc over the last season and a half comes full circle. First he was trying to be the good guy, then he slipped back into villain status before being dragged back to good guy by Chuck, tried to redeem Ensaba Noor but that backfired, pushing him further into Apocalypse territory, and leading Magneto to sacrifice himself, for real this time. We also see the origin of Apocalypse's idea to resurrect Gambit, because Noor sits down to talk to Rogue, and she mentions how she lost Gambit in the present. We also have what I think is the setup for Genesis, Apocalypse's wife. Right now, she's known as Kandra, and she served as Ramatut's assistant before he just bailed on her. And in the X-Men animated series timeline, she becomes known as External, a member of the Thieves Guild. Now, this is just a theory of mine, but I think they're gonna combine External and Genesis, because Genesis as a character didn't exist till the 2000s. So obviously, she couldn't be featured in the original animated series. But now that she does exist, I think they'll have Kandra become Genesis, and that'll also further tie Apocalypse to Gambit, who obviously was also a member of the Thieves Guild. And Kang's final line to her before he retreated like the Saturday morning villain he is definitely stands out.
Fear not. Your destiny starts today, for his power can only be challenged by a force that is external.
What? What do you mean?
Only time will tell.
Also, I just love how campy Kang is in this episode. Plays well off Apocalypse's super serious nature. And I really hope we see more of him in seasons to come. Episode 5, Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs follows Wolverine and Morph as they gather up the old Team X, consisting of Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, Maverick, and Garrison Kane as they track down a Weapon X research facility in the hunt for Dr. Abraham Cornelius. This builds on an end credit scene from episode 4, where we saw Wolverine in the present meeting up with Captain America and Black Widow, getting a manila folder labeled Weapon X. So right off the bat, we know where this is leading. We're gonna see Logan get his adamantium back. It also passes itself off as a Wolverine and the Old Crew episode, but that's only surface level. Though it is interesting to see Morph try to fit in with Logan's old crew. They butt heads in almost every area, especially Morph and Sabretooth.
What's your deal, putty boy? You got beef with Weapon X? Or are you just a hairy runce little ex-pet?
Only pet here is whatever that flea-riddled outfit of yours was before it got road-killed.
Their mission's interrupted when a bunch of mutated birds slam into the helicopter, causing it to crash. Team X continues on foot, without Kane though, cause, he's gonna have a hard time getting up from that. Along the way, they fight off more mutated animals, and when they actually enter the facility and find Cornelius, he mutates as well. Now we see the real cause of this outbreak, an alien invasion. The Brood, to be specific. And this is where the episode's strengths start to shine, because this is the first proper Brood episode we've gotten in this entire franchise. For those who don't know, the Brood are an iconic alien race from X-Men comics. They debuted in the 80s to capitalize off of the alien craze that was running the nation. But unlike most aliens in the Marvel Universe, they don't have individual traits. They're more of a hive-minded swarm species. Storm fans will recall the storyline where she got infected with a brood egg and consumed the energy from a galactic core to kill it. Now let me know when X-Men 97 adapts that storyline. And if they do, I want all of it. Sapient space whales and all. They were kinda in the original animated series. The series showrunners felt their design really wasn't kid-friendly, so they only used the Brood very sparingly. They were also featured in the Japanese opening to the X-Men, which obviously had different standards on what was and wasn't kid-friendly. But they'd get a major redesign when they got their own dedicated episodes, and they were renamed the Colony, kinda like how the Hellfire Club became the Inner Circle. That's 90s cartoons for you. So getting to see the Brood proper in their full sci-fi horror is definitely a treat, even if it comes at the cost of Wolverine. The group splits into two groups, one to restart the facility's power, and one to secure an escape. Morph, Lady Deathstrike, and Sabretooth find this footage of the Brood, and we see why Dr. Cornelius was using the Brood in the first place. He wanted to use their blood to control test subjects for more of his Weapon X experiments, and that had the exact result that you think it had. Shout out to the Maggot cameo, by the way. Sucks that he gets turned into a Brood hybrid, but at least we get to see him. Then they find out Wolverine's actually been infected by the Brood himself. He takes out Maverick and accidentally releases his old nemesis Omega Red. So now the crew has Omega Red, a bunch of Brood aliens, and Brood hybrid Wolverine to deal with. Around this time, they discover the real reason why Wolverine wants to come here: the adamantium stored in the facility. So Wolverine is using his friends, old and new, plus Sabretooth, just so he can get his adamantium back. Morph does not want to admit that Logan is just using everybody, but everyone else is just like, man, that's Logan. He gonna do what he gonna do.
That monster in there, that feral beast that killed his friend Maverick, that's the real Wolverine.
That's not true!
This had nothing to do with taking down Weapon X. He came here to get his claws back.
Morph convinces the team to work together just long enough to get Wolverine back into the vat to rebond the adamantium to his skeleton, using himself as bait by turning into Cyclops to agitate Wolverine, then turning into Jean to calm him down. The bonding process also purges his system of the brood DNA, turning him back to his good old normal self. Omega Red gets whooped, the facility explodes, and the surviving Team X members retreat. But now Morph and Wolverine's relationship is strained because Morph's seen a side of Wolverine that he never has before. A lesson Lady Deathstrike learned the hard way long ago, which she confirms to Morph by giving him a validating look. As a Team X episode, this one was okay. As a Wolverine episode, it sucked. He practically spends the second half of the episode either off-screen or as a brood hybrid. We do get plenty of cool fight scenes, more Morph cameos, and Wolverine recreating his most iconic cover of all time. But to me, it's just another example of style over substance for X-Men 97. We really don't have time for side quest episodes. And then it didn't tell us anything about Wolverine we didn't already know. Oh, and if you think the episode's wasting time is gonna change anytime soon, don't worry, it won't. Episode 6, titled Danger.exe, starts off with Xavier reliving what may just be the worst moment of his life. But this isn't just a memory. He's in the danger room, reliving the moment over and over again on purpose. I haven't seen this much traumatic rumination since Tony Stark kept reliving the last time he spoke to his parents. He says it's for therapy, but the danger room believes him just as much as you and I do. Because as he keeps replaying Apocalypse's words to him, the danger room interprets that in a way that only a fucking AI could.
What's happened?
Simulation parameters were modified in response to repeated failure indicators. You expressed a desire to increase strength. I adapted.
The Danger Room's motivation is pretty muddled. It's 50% helping the X-Men by trying to kill them, and 50% becoming the one most fit to survive. And of course it comes out of nowhere, because this is the first time we've even been in the Danger Room this season. Meanwhile, Polaris is having a falling out with her X-Factor buddies, because she just can't deal with all these anti-mutant terrorists. So instead of going easy on them like the government wants her to, she gets ready to throw the book at them. Or the boat, in this case.
Polaris, keep it together. Do not engage.
I am not the one who needs to be controlled!
Polaris, no!
But Val Cooper and Havoc are not having it. After comparing Polaris to her late father, which only infuriates Polaris even more, Val unceremoniously relieves her of her duties. But Polaris really doesn't feel bad about it. She'll never apologize for standing up for mutant rights and safety. So she heads to the only real home she's ever known. Now that the X-Men are back in the present, they can actually rebuild the X-Mansion. Although the X-Men have also been outlawed by the US government, so it's not really the X-Mansion anymore, but it's the X-Mansion. It's kind of complicated. We'll get into that in a second. As Xavier reopens the former X-Mansion, he does so by naming Storm the new headmistress of the school. On one hand, I do like seeing Storm promoted in a way. And since we have a whole new generation of mutant teens that need guidance, Storm is one of the best choices for the role. Definite nod to the comics where she was headmistress of the Jean Grey School of Higher Learning in the 2010s. But I can't shake the feeling that she's gonna be shelved for the rest of the season. Because if she's responsible for all these new kids, is that gonna mean she's off the field team? Not only is it a further fracturing of an already very fractured team, but it's yet another example of shoving Storm in the corner so that she doesn't have to deal with the main plot. I hated it then, I hate it now. And now that we're 2/3 through the season, is Storm just gonna be a glorified babysitter for the next 3 episodes? Will we even actually see her guide and shape these kids, or is most of that gonna happen off camera? We do know she'll play some active role in the upcoming Savage Land episode, and this big team-up fight, which will probably bookend the season. But other than that, looks like it's more of the same for Aurora. Polaris returns home and she gets a warm welcome from all her old friends, just in time to be thrown in the mix. one of the students is injured in the danger room. He's saved by a Storm Bishop combo. And is this the first time Storm's used her powers to resuscitate someone? If so, that is criminal, cause I feel like she should have been doing this a long time ago. Feels like a no-brainer. She's a walking defibrillator. But all of this was just a ploy from the danger room, who has decided now is the perfect time to start fucking with the X-Men. And she's not just attacking them physically. She goes for the mental jugular as well. First, she remakes Bishop's timeline, sending some Prime Sentinels after them. Then she starts triggering Lorna with visions of her father, saying that she'll end up just like him, a villain that tries and fails to be good. This triggers a massive power eruption from Lorna, which actually harms the students before Bishop talks her down, leading Danger to finally take on a human form, makes short work of Polaris, steals a personal X-Jet and heads off for Genosha, where Xavier, Jean, Scott, and Beast left for a while ago. Also, why does Danger have this randomly sultry voice? It's really not sinister or cold and calculating like you might expect. She sounds almost like a robotic goblin queen.
Just the power I require. Coded to evolve. Engineered for survival.
Look at you. A villain playing dress up as a hero. I should have you as a toy.
Anyway, Storm and Forge hang back with the kids because of course they do, leaving Polaris and Bishop to head to Genosha. The X-Men on Genosha encounter Danger, and they do hold her off for a little bit. We see that sick scene of Jean and Cyclops combining their powers, but that barely affects her. She's been training the X-Men for years, so she knows their strategies in and out. Even Jean's psionic tornado only holds her back a little bit. Side note, but when Danger's repairing herself in the psychic tornado, you see this big shimmer come from her in the shape of a giant cross. And that's giving me all the Neon Genesis Evangelion vibes. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I definitely noticed it. Finally, Polaris and Bishop arrive, and she works with the professor to finally take Danger down. In order to do that, Xavier shows Polaris a side of Magneto she never got to experience, his good side, and he basically plays a highlight reel of Magneto's best moments from season 1 and 2, which leads Polaris to an emotional breakthrough, allowing her to use her powers in ways that she didn't even know she could. This overloads and defeats Danger, but she seems to be alright with it. Like I said, this was her main reason for attacking them all along, so her plan to make the X-Men evolve, it kinda worked. And this superpower therapy session isn't just good for Polaris, it helps Xavier too. And this moment inspires him to move the X-Men's base from the United States to Genosha, establishing X-Corp. Now the X-Men can continue to do what they do best without government meddling. Of course this isn't enough for Val Cooper, and she swears she's gonna take the X-Men down one way or another. Val is nothing if not consistent. And we end the episode with the reveal we all knew was coming. Gambit is finally resurrected as one of Apocalypse's horsemen. Now the transformation scene is dope, lots of good visuals, the animation in this show is insane, but why did it take 6 whole episodes to get here? We knew this was coming before the end of season 1. They weren't subtle with the hints either. So now we only have 3 episodes to see Horseman Gambit in action, and most likely have him return to normal. Unless they stretch the Apocalypse fight into season 3, I don't see this going any other way. And that'll be terribly underwhelming. We better not have been waiting for 2 years just for something that'll be resolved in like 2 episodes. I will reach high levels of passivity if that's what happens. Those are all my thoughts. Now it's your turn to give me yours. Definitely bring up anything I didn't mention. And then click on this video right here to get more Weather Witch goddessness in your life that's not being shelved. And until next time, keep simping.